Giant solar farms now sprawl across deserts. Wind turbines are lining coastlines, and for the first time, China's carbon emissions are falling. Could this be the moment when global climate action really starts to shift?
Today's date is 2025-5/21. China's emissions are now in a sustained decline, and it isn't because of an economic slowdown. It's due to the rapid expansion of green energy. This is the first time the world's biggest emitter has seen this kind of shift. Why should people everywhere care about this?
It's significant. Over the past year, China's emissions dropped by 1%. In just the first quarter of 2025, the drop was 1.6%. What's important here is that this isn't just a short-term dip. It's a structural decline, and it's happening because of record clean energy growth, not a fall in industrial demand.
When you say structural, you mean we're not just seeing a temporary decrease. It's something deeper in the system?
Yes, exactly. And the scale is remarkable. In 2024, China added 277.2 gigawatts of solar power. To put that in perspective, that's more than double what the U.S. had installed in total by the end of last year. Wind power increased by another 79.3 gigawatts. These numbers are enough to shift global energy markets.
How did China manage to build out renewables at this speed? What's unique about their approach?
Two factors stand out: enormous investment in grid modernization and an integrated approach to transmission. In 2024 alone, China invested over $84 billion in grid upgrades. That's a 15% increase from the previous year. As a result, they connected 429 gigawatts of new capacity, 83% of it from wind and solar.
So it's not just about building wind farms and solar panels, it's about making sure the grid can support them. But doesn't that lead to new challenges, like keeping the grid stable or managing the ups and downs of renewable output?
Exactly. Because solar and wind are inherently variable, grid flexibility has become a priority. China's investing in storage, smart grid technology, and ultra-high voltage lines to move electricity across long distances. But it's still a work in progress. As renewables grow, grid reliability is being tested.
Let's talk about targets. China reached its 2030 clean energy goal, 1,200 gigawatts of wind and solar, by the end of last year. That's 6 years ahead of schedule. What does that mean for their emissions outlook?
It's a major milestone. In 2024, zero-emission sources made up 87% of all new power capacity. Overall generation capacity rose by 14.6%, and most of that came from renewables. This suggests China's emissions could peak well before their Paris Agreement deadline.
But coal is still part of the picture. China uses more than half of the world's coal and is still building new plants. How do we square that with this rapid clean energy growth?
It's complicated. Some new coal plants are needed for grid reliability, to back up renewables during times of high demand or when solar and wind are low. However, coal's share in new capacity has dropped sharply, just 7% in early 2025, compared to 74% from solar. Renewables are now outperforming coal when it comes to both cost and reliability.
Is there a risk that keeping coal in the mix could slow down progress or lock in higher emissions for decades?
That risk does exist, especially with potential overcapacity, but the trend now is for renewables to take the lead in new investments. Coal's share of the energy mix is shrinking, even as some new plants are still being built.
Looking at the bigger picture, China's scale is unique, but are there lessons here for other countries trying to cut emissions?
Yes, China's case shows that large-scale coordinated investment in both renewables and grid infrastructure is crucial. Having clear policy signals helps, and using domestic manufacturing can lower costs. But not every country has China's governance or financing structure. The main lesson is to align infrastructure, policy, and investment.
For developing countries with less funding or different political systems, which parts of China's strategy actually translate?
Adapting grid upgrades to local needs, ensuring regulatory clarity, and using international partnerships to bridge financing gaps are all important. The idea isn't to copy China exactly, but to adapt the fundamentals, invest in infrastructure, set clear targets, and play to local strengths.
Looking forward, will this 1% drop in emissions continue, or could it be a temporary result?
Current signs point to a lasting shift. Some forecasts suggest renewables could make up 60% of China's energy by 2050, with fossil fuels falling to 40%. It's still early, but the momentum is building.
So, China's renewable push isn't just reshaping its own energy mix, it could adjust the global climate timeline. Do you think other large economies will rise to meet this level of ambition?
That's the key question. China is showing that it's possible to grow economically while cutting emissions. Now it's a matter of whether others will follow with similar determination.
China's clean energy surge may be a real turning point for emissions and global climate strategy. Thanks for helping us unpack the details today.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.